Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, I'm Sue Minahan, Talk Cosmos, and today we are talking about the Capricorn New Moon cycle. It's very exciting. We have actions that are still in retrograde beginning this new year, and it's changing a focus. It's changing a focus from our manifestation to cutting away what in Cancer might be, because it involves our go-to planet, Mars, what may no longer be serving us for our security. This is all in conversation with my great team that I have and that you love, I know, because I thank you so much for joining us and always for supporting and liking and subscribing to Talk Cosmos. We are now ready for Kaleidoscope Visions.
Understanding the cosmic energies influencing our consciousness by the 4 major moon phases for the month, this is your Kaleidoscope Visions panel.
I'm Sue Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
I'm Amanda Pierce. I'm a soul-centered astrologer, blending intuition into my practice. I believe the universe is always working for our highest good and seek to empower my clients in our readings. I teach a 4-week series of empowerment-based meditation classes that connect you deeper into your own intuition and innate power. I work in communications with a passion for employee experience. I also have a BA in psychology. I'm passionate about healing and enjoy helping others create new realities and shift old paradigms.
And I'm John Chinworth, a Seattle astrologer with more than 25 years experience. I use a blend of evolutionary, traditional, and archetypal techniques and constantly attend workshops and lectures to further hone my skills. I hold an MFA in poetics, an MA in teaching, and an astrological diploma. I've lectured at NORWAC and served on the WSAA board. I have worked in general and special education classrooms, both as a teacher and mentor. I also enjoy reading, penning poems, riding a bike, and going on road trips around the great state of Washington.
And like the Sufi poet Rumi says, you are the entire ocean in a drop.
Hello, Amanda, and hello, John. How have you guys been?
Hello. Well, it's been quite a ride lately, hasn't it? I think we're looking for more in 2025 as well. So,
yes,
on that roller coaster.
It's true. We're introducing 2025. I feel like it's come and gone several times, but we're really here. So, and you, John, how is it?
Kind of a busy 2 weeks and just looking forward to the new year. And let's see what happens.
Okay, we will. Amanda Pierce is at Amanda Moon Astrology at Gmail. And John is at skypathastro.com. And I think we're being asked to check our microphone, John. But anyway, in the details, more in the details. And I'm at Talk Cosmos, and thank you for joining us always. We always begin talking about the luminaries. It's nature's clock. These 2 orbits between the sun and the moon is our moon, and it's at a perfect distance from Earth for the eclipses, but this is not about eclipses, but still the moon reflects the sun's light. Yes, John, I think you had thoughts about this.
Yeah, the moon is the reflector of the sun. I also think of the sun's light coming, and then that light comes into us, and we internalize it and see what we do with it. I don't know.
That's very true, because it's actually emitting the sun's light, which here is in Capricorn. So it's Capricorn light transferred into the new moon would be in its pureness, and then for each quarter phase, it shifts. It's amazing. Amanda,
And the-
you have
and
a
the-
thought?
Well, I want to say one thing though. The new moon also kind of might have a color for the whole cycle of this moon.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. And the moon is it can be kind of an intermediary between the earth and the sun. And the sun is the spirit, and the moon allows us to see the sun's light in a way that won't blind us, because we can't stare right at it, right? So it provides us a way of interpreting and digesting the content.
And through, I love this because it's through the darkest moments, isn't it? Metaphysically, we always talk about as soon as you turn the light on, the darkness changes. But we need this polarity of shadow and light. But here we have the moon that's not always, depending on where you live. I know in the Northwest where you are, you don't always see the moon because of the clouds. But usually speaking, at night, and you can see the moon sometimes in the day. So it's quite a messenger of its own sort.
I do like watching it when we have clear skies, not often, to watch it go across the sky at the multiple phases. It's kind of cool.
It is. And I'm always looking at it saying, okay, it's a quarter moon. Now I know that the full moon, trying to realize what sign it's in. Let's lead on. This shows the moon through all its phases. And we're doing the 4 major ones. So the new moon was a week ago, right before the new year on the 30th at 9 degrees, 43 Capricorn. And we'll go through this. And the first quarter is actually tomorrow. And then the full moon is going to be on the 13th of the month, right in the middle. And as we enter Aquarius, the third quarter will be in Scorpio, because it's always going towards the next mode. It'll be fixed because all of the rest of these are cardinal. So there's a lot of action. First of the year, we're moving. This is another diagram that shows here on the right-hand side the new moon when you don't see the moon because Earth is blocking the light, and it just shows the pattern of the 4. The new moon is the seed point. And as you were saying, it's coloring, it's that lens, it's that backdrop for the entire cycle. And it's almost 10 degrees, but not quite. They're at 9 degrees for about 5 months, all of these new moons. But Saturn is the guiding ruler. That's a significance. And then with the first quarter moon, it's crisis in action. And it's waxing, meaning it's increasing that light. It's half lit. And in Aries, it's Mars. But Mars is retrograde the entire month. And as of the 7th, as we'll find out, it's going to go back into Cancer. Right now, it's just at the very end of its Leo that it has been.
Yeah, there's a with all the cardinal energy that you mentioned and Aries moon, and there's a lot of action, like desire. It's also, we're primed with the start of 2025 to always want to take action. That's part of the Capricorn energy. But it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out with that Mars retrograde. It's not going to be a straightforward action.
It's true, because especially from Leo, we could manifest ourselves. It's Leo wants that, is that need to manifestation, to actualize, become, but with much more cautionary in Cancer. And importantly, like, what's your foundation? Have your actions really, are they securing your path that you want to go forward? I know I'm making a lot of realizations that I need to get some additional, various ways of increasing my timeline, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Think about a Cancer, how it always moves from side to side and never forward. And so Mars is having to, I have to go around this and go around that. It'll do it. It'll directly have to do it, but it'll have to avoid things or make new paths constantly. So,
it's a good
being open to that.
It's a good thing the sun is in Capricorn, because it's more patient, even though it says the timing is now. It's still an Earth, oriented sign, because Mars is just struggling, going, as you say, we're not really going forward. We're going backwards, and we're going sideways. The
And
tides are.
Mars falls in Cancer. It's like, what do I do with this sign, right? It's very difficult for it to navigate.
Well, the full moon will be totally in Cancer. So perhaps that'll help Mars. And that's a very dynamic. It's illumination, it's culminating and releasing. It has these multiple, like, how is the fruit blossomed? And is it working? Or should we snip off parts and refocus? And that's going to be on the 13th. It's very last degree of 20, it's 23 degrees, almost 24 degrees Cancer. Which means let's look at Mars, because Mars is going to be retrograde in that chart in all of this month. And as of the 7th, which is this week on Tuesday, which will also be showing it's going to be entering Cancer. And it stays retrograde until February 17th, I believe. So we'll be talking about it next month too. Well, the last we have is a third quarter moon, which crisis in consciousness versus crisis in action. John, do you want to talk?
Well, what have we learned from this cycle, right? From all the redirecting and staying steadfast with it, that Capricorn energy. What have we learned, and how can we share that? How can I grow my consciousness? What have I learned? That's how I think about third quarter moons. It's also maybe time to what doesn't serve anymore. Right, because you're getting ready to begin a new phase soon.
It's a strong yin period where we're starting to internalize and integrate our lessons, and also it's a preparation period for the next coming cycle as well.
That's so right, because the seed is within the hole that wants to burst out, and we have two rulers, depending on how you look at it. Pluto's the modern ruler, absolutely. And Mars has always been the traditional. So Mars is going to go forward with action, changing things. And Pluto is very psychologically and just purges what isn't working. So altogether, it's going to be action city. Okay. Out of bounds is another factor that has been increasingly on our agenda. However, Ceres no longer, since April, it's been out of bounds. Ceres is nurturing and grief. We know there's been that twofold across the globe and on many personal levels. You know, it's where you find how to nurture yourself through the grief. And as of January 15th, it will no longer be out of bounds. However, Mercury, Mars, and will carry on with the moon. Our soup, we've had some input about trying to figure out what to change our focus. And we're realizing, hey, what energies ingredients, if we were to make a soup, and we decided Mars is hot. So we're putting in chili peppers into this soup. So we shall see what we build out of this month. Go ahead with the Sabian symbol.
Oh, this is a lovely symbol. The albatross feeding from the hand of a sailor. To me, this is about generosity and caring for people. And maybe a good archetype might be the Good Samaritan, you know. Also, you know, the albatross follows boats.
Oh, I
They've
didn't
learned
know
how to
that.
navigate by taking boats, and you can feed them or whatever. So that's an interesting thing to think about.
It is.
And that's Mars energy too, going on this journey, going forward, and yet
Courage.
getting sustenance along the way by generous people.
It's very true. There is a sense of trust if you're going. You
Right.
can't always be rather than fearful, and that is it's generating it, and through that exchange. So that's for an overview. What a wonderful way of overcoming fear and its rewards. I like it. Amanda, do you have any thoughts?
Well, yeah. So a lot of times when I think of albatross, there's in our society, it's often a metaphor for like a psychological burden can be associated with guilt and shame. And we're coming in here with a Capricorn new moon. So both sun and moon are in Capricorn, which are often associated with guilt and shame. So how are we going to stop feeding that cycle of guilt and shame that we have in our lives? And this is a great period to kind of set that intention to make some changes where we have that showing up in our lives.
Yes, in reading the actual Sabian symbol that comes from Mark Edwin Jones and then Dane Rudjar later and others have put input, it says that every living entity has a role. And so it's just very much like the nodes that are coming up of Pisces, where it's more unity, not separation. And so it needs that trust. Excellent. Let's see what happens with this energy that's been carried into the new year that happened on the 30th, just before the new year. And it was at 9 degrees, 43 degrees Capricorn on the December 30th. And it was in the evening on the East Coast, 5:26 p.m. That's DC. This is an Aries chart, meaning it doesn't have the houses in case people are watching from Australia and England, which we have. Right off the bat, a subject we talked about is Mars opposing Pluto. There's this, the rulers are tremendously transforming. Yes.
Well, so we've talked in the past about Venus and its transit with Pluto and how it's gone through its underworld experience. And Mars is doing the same here. It's journeying to the underworld. It's meeting with Pluto, and there's a part of it that needs to die in order to be reborn. So how can we transform how we're taking action, how we're taking a stand for ourselves, how we're getting things done or initiating new things, or how we fight or argue about things? Like there's what's coming up here to kind of let go.
Well, we could tie it to the albatross image, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And particularly, go ahead.
I just want to link those up.
Well, I'm thinking too, particularly with the nodes, because that is a theme all month because of the fact that it's an 18-month cycle. And as of the middle on the 11th, it's going to change signs. So look at these. They're still at the very, almost the seed point, the Aries point of the North Node of self. So when you talk about this underworld experience of Mars, it's which is absolutely true. They both go through their portals of connections with and change, as you say, to purge, because it's our belief systems of how we see our purpose in the whole scheme of things, how we move forward.
Well, the way the nodes are getting ready to change signs at that Aries point, that we would call that a critical degree, like when a planet hits its endpoint before it comes to the new sign. So, and the nodes are about, well, your karmic journey. So what needs to get done before you take that leap into the next thing you're going to do? There's a, hate to say it, there's a little bit of pressure here, right?
Well, there's, go ahead, yes.
Well, yeah, and that North Node that we're moving towards is in Aries, and so that's ruled by this Mars that's in retrograde, that's opposite Pluto, that's looking for that shift in how it's acting and behaving for us in our lives.
What? It's the last, I'm so sorry. I get this brainstorm and it's like a tsunami coming in. But when you all say this, it's Mars' last ditch, being the authentic, pure ruler of the North Node, because coming up, well, it won't be the ruler at all, will it? Because it'll be
no, it won't. So it's its last chance to kind of really initiate itself.
Yeah.
Jupiter will actually take over, right? Because it'll go into Pisces.
And Neptune, thank you. Yeah, right. But then look at
Neptune's
Saturn.
right there.
But Saturn is talking big here because Saturn is toggling. That's toggling. That's a new word. Toggling between Mercury and Jupiter.
Writing that down.
Yeah, we have a whole new vocabulary. But Those are in mutual reception, as we've explained before. That means that each other's signs. So Jupiter is in thinking, Gemini, and Mercury is in philosophizing, belief systems, Sagittarius. And so they're exchanging this huge dialogue, and Saturn saying, hey, people, get it down, figure out a structure, like crop it off, get focused. How are you going to go ahead? And not only that, but don't worry about too many details. Just do what's going to be unified, because it's in Pisces.
Or Saturn's asking, what do you want to build with all this great knowledge you have, right?
Yeah.
Get out of your head.
What's the vision?
What are you trying to build here? And because Saturn in Pisces, what is the dream you're trying to build?
Thank you. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, in this this last period where we have Mars ruling the North Node, at least in this new moon period, it's Mars is in Leo, and the Sun is in Capricorn here. So there is more seriousness to it. There's more maturity and more potential ability to kind of take that Mars drive and use it in a way that's empowering for yourself.
Willingness for accountability, I was thinking,
of
what you're saying. And that's excellent. That's like feeding a direction. It may be retrograde, but it helps us move into 2025 saying, I think I see a plan there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really liking all of this Capricorn energy that we have over the month to kind of help us negotiate with some of the heat of Mars. So,
because if we really looked at astrology, and there is this extra energy, sesquiquadrate, as they call it, but not to get too tangled up in the name of it, but it's an extra focus of action. We are struggling between how to go ahead in our thinking. We're really working at that. I don't know if struggle is the right word, but it's a definite theme. And the other one is that new moon that wants to open its light up with working with the changes that are happening, as we can know. Well, shall we go on to the next one and see?
Can I just say one other thing that I really like about this chart is Venus square Uranus. And so Venus is your self-worth, it's your net worth, your relationships, and what you value in life. And last month it was conjunct Pluto, and it kind of went through this rebirth process, and it's now in Aquarius, and it's got all this new freedom. With the square to Uranus, we might see that amplified even more. And there might be a need to break free from relationships that aren't serving you anymore and that don't align with your values. And just a note to, I guess throughout this whole month is being gentle with others, because there's some spicy pieces, and if you do need to step back from a relationship, do it with as much kindness as you can.
I love that so much, Amanda. And you bringing in that story from the past, because the moon is all about that constant restoring, telling new stories. And what I'm realizing is Uranus, which is so immediate in the present right now, is ruled by Venus. So Venus there is in Aquarius. So they are in mutual reception. Yeah. It's a strong impact here, isn't it? Yes.
Pluto's also trine the South Node. So it's giving a lot of power to...
Ooh, let's do that. We'll go to the next.
Okay. Let go of dynamics that aren't serving.
Yeah. And we are just always refocusing on the idea of the point of Thales. It's not something talked about a lot, just so you don't get caught up in names, but it is sacred geometry. It's constructive. And it's when there's an opposition and a third planet that's in a flowing trine and a connective sextile. So it's really a gift of energy. And the mystic rectangle has many of these. So that's why this mystic rectangle is, as John says, building a mystical block. It's like a brick.
I call it a mystical brick
Yeah.
because they're trines and they're good, playful energy, and you can build with them. You can make something with them.
And I don't know if I put that trine in that you saw, Amanda, but go ahead and yes.
Oh yeah, it's in there. That's the Pluto trine the South Node. Right there. Yeah. So part of this mystic angle.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the construction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really supportive, empowering us to let go of relationship dynamics that aren't really working for us. And, potentially build something better. And that doesn't necessarily mean cutting off and ending a relationship. Maybe it just means communicating it, what your needs are.
Refocusing. Yes. Refocusing on a new platform, because it could also be that individual or that relationship or that group, whatever it is, also has other needs that they would be willing to adjust or already have adjusted it. It's mutual. Very well.
Being tied to the nodes being like a karmic direction, having the trine and sextile are helpers. So Mars and Pluto are helping you along with that at this pressurized thing where the nodes are going to shift. So that's kind of a really kind thing happening. It's like it's saying, hey, you can build this, you can focus on this, it's going to be okay.
Well, beautiful. So in other words, our cardinal point, and this is already something that we've been moving through, because today is the first week of, at the week of the 5th of January. And during this week, there'll be the first quarter, which is a crisis of consciousness, a crisis of action. So this is what we're carrying into us, is this theme of embodiment of our destiny of self still with our relationships, because the nodes are in Aries and Libra still. We're getting ready to have them move into a wider scenario. So I really think a lot of these relationships are within realizing that other people have many groups. You can have a close relationship even, but suddenly their attention might be with other focuses, and it's not that they're leaving you, it's just that their attention is being drawn in other dynamics. Okay. Any comments, or shall we break away and come back for a wonderful time to continue our story? Let's see what's happened. Oh, the soup. That's right. It's really strong. Mars, retrograde. We've got ghost pepper. Now that's the opposition with Mars and Pluto. Amanda, tell me about ghost pepper.
Oh, they're just a very, very, very hot pepper, and with a very high Scoville rating. I don't think they're the hottest ever, but they're very, very close to being the hottest. And
they're not a Habanya Habernata.
They're hotter than habanero.
Oh
hotter
my
than
goodness!
Habanero.
Okay, we're marching. We're getting ready for our soup. We'll be back. Join us. Thank you, everybody.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the yin period of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, the furthest visible planet by the eye. By leaving a cycle based on meaningfulness and truth, Capricorn's energy establishes social boundaries in a structure incorporating rules, authority, and ethics. As a cardinal earth sign depicted by a sea goat climbing from the sea up to the top of a mountain, Capricorn overcomes fears through goals and ambitions to achieve mastery.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to the Ananda Institute of Living Yoga, we cover the world of animals. This week, January 12th, it's Best Neuroenergetic Balancing, Rasmussen Reset and Energy Code Sunday. Dr. Nils Rasmussen and Sister Linda Rasmussen join us. Together, they'll take your phone calls and they can help with emotional, behavior, and physical issues for you or your animal friends. Hope you can join us. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Seattle, Tacoma, Antwerp. That's right. We're streamed worldwide on our app and on the web at 1150kknw.com.
Hallelujah. Here we are. Well, very good. Let's see what happened there. Okay. I don't think that's what I wanted. I think, oh, you know what? Okay. Well, at any rate, here it is. This is the first quarter moon on January 6th, which is right this week. And it's the saving symbol is 17 degrees Aries. And this was the original idea. We added crones. We didn't really look it up. It's just one interpretation because spinsters is really not in our book of vocabulary these days. But it says two dignified spinsters, but it just means people that have remained their identity. I suppose crones, you could say, sitting in silence. So it's this idea of, again, and I don't really like the way the keynote is, but the point is you have poise and inner serenity. John?
Just, I'd like to highlight the acceptance of it, to be able to claim what you've done, because it has great value. And I think that there's a little bit of this in this picture, or there should be. An original way of thinking about it was seclusion and suppression and rescindment, but that seems tied to that spinster thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
very judgmental. And I think
Exactly.
really it is that we could look at it this way. If it's very symbolic rather than literal, it's just taking any situation where you might feel some restrictions from society, but you transform that into realizing it's your path, your way of doing it, and you're whole with it, really, and there's a contemplation. You don't need to explain it to anybody. You are who you are. And I wish I could.
In that position, you could, that's your chance to recalibrate and make a new plan about going forward and what you want to do. So there is actually power in that. All
right. Amanda, or should we lead on?
I think the only other thing I would say is that, spinsters is it's when this was written, a term that was often thought of negatively, but spinsters also, when there were considered spinsters, they weren't beholden to a man. They had their freedom, and there's a lot of value in that. And it reminds me of the Vestal Virgins in Rome that were, they didn't marry, and they had all this freedom to own property, and they had rights that even men in Roman times didn't have. And in this chart, Pluto is square Vesta, which is the sign of the Vestal Virgins. So there's this empowerment piece running through it.
That is most intriguing, because I'm also thinking that if we see a Capricorn as authority, that's a traditional idea with rules and regulation and the status quo of what has been created through tradition, and Aries as that impetus of spark that's just taking from the womb and going forward on its journey of courage to discover and become, then there is also this breakaway of, which wasn't necessarily thinking of this first square with the crisis in action, but it relates really strong to what we're talking about.
Yeah, this the first quarter moon is the period where we start to have a little bit of resistance coming forward that's going to play out for the rest of the month. And it's a time when we need to start confronting our environment. And it's traditionally when we're taking action. And so with a moon in Aries, like there's a really strong desire for us to take action during this period. But that may be really challenging with the Mars retrograde ruling it.
And out of bounds.
And the moon conjunct Chiron. So how do we move forward in a way that's the most empowered for us possibly at this point?
Well, it shows here that the Mars is actually in Cancer as of this moment. Now, this is an Aries point chart, meaning that the ascendant is at 0 degrees Aries. However, Mars, again, talk about this mutual reception that we keep bringing up between one planet and the other, exchanging their natural sign. So the moon is in Aries, ruled by Mars, and Mars is in Cancer, ruled by the moon. So they both might be, it may not be the natural way that they work in some ways, because the moon has a constant evolution of change and Mars can cut away from things. But that's exactly what it wants to do here, I think, is cut away what is obstructing its opportunity to have that self with the North Node, its last ditch effort the week, because in 5 days after this, they shift into the Pisces North Node.
The nodes have Mercury square them. So now Saturn was there before, I guess. Is that it? What was square the nodes before? Anyway, Mercury square them now. So lots of thinking about where we're going, what direction we're going.
Yes.
So mind's just very active right now, right? Oh, language as well.
Yeah, and maybe this last period where we have the nodes still in Aries and Libra, maybe what we really need to make those last changes is to have a Mars retrograde and a Mars out of bounds. And out of bounds meaning like it doesn't play by its typical rules. It's beyond
free to be.
What was that?
Free to be.
Free to be. Yeah, there's a lot of freedom. And so we may be taking action in ways that we don't typically do. And that may be exactly the balm that we need at this time to kind of work through this last piece.
Yeah, it's emotional too. There's a lot of emotions here, and how we feel is what really directs our destiny. It's not just all in the brain at all, but it's connecting that brain to the heart and our feelings and acknowledging it, walking the path through those emotions. And that's what the moon's really doing, is re-describing our story constantly, giving us new purpose for actions, because action defines, it's evolutionary, right? Every leaf grows with a new leaf. Life is change. And
Mercury adds the mental element of let's be aware of what the emotions are. So check yourself, ask yourself, what are you avoiding? What do you need to feel at this time?
Resistance, back to that.
And I like the Mercury in being in Sagittarius as well, because it's like it likes to synthesize things. So it's bringing all the information together and seeing that kind of bigger picture of it. So that can be really helpful at this time.
New patterns. Thank you.
Yeah. One other thing about the moon conjunct Chiron, there can be a lot of potential for healing. When we have Chiron in Aries, this is an archetype where the wounding of Aries can come forward. So a lot of like rash decisions, impulsive behavior. And if we can temper that in any way, then this is a real opportunity for us to heal in those areas. And I really like the Sun conjunct Pallas. I'm not seeing that here.
No, I don't have
It
it,
was
I think,
I saw it in a previous chart.
but it's strategist, a strategist.
Yes. It's that
But-
strategist energy.
Yeah. Chiron in Aries is identity, and the United States is at 1920 degrees. So we still have one more conjunction for our final Chiron return. So not only individually are we redesigning, like you say, connecting with our identity constantly through this journey with, well, the transit of Chiron in Aries, but also as a nation, how are we looking at that? Let's look at this mystic triangle.
Maybe having to look at the collective pain that's happened in this country. It's kind of there, and it's time to look at that and grieve it and do things about it.
And
Perhaps.
I think, and become connected with the tribe and the community that speaks to our heart. Rather than, you can't change the whole, everything is part of everything else. And that's what Pisces is going to bring up. It's not just self. I'm not just independent. So this is like the last few days before we really enter a whole new stream, because once it's in Pisces, the North Node, it doesn't go back to Aries. It stays there in, I believe, in Pisces, and just keeps moving from 29 to 0 degrees.
There's a lot of fierce individualization also in that first house, that Aries house. I mean, Eris, Chiron, Moon, and the North Node. It's like,
no. Remember, this is not an Aries. This is an Aries point. There's no house.
The four planets in Aries right now are really giving an individualized kind of energy. So people out for themselves. So we have to think collectively as we do the things we need to do for ourselves. So that's just like a red flag lookout kind of thing.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go on. We have
soup.
Yes, now we're adding garlic. I always love garlic, but that's Mars too. So we can't get away from Mars. It's going to be a very Martian soup here, that whatever we're creating. But we came up with potatoes. So this might be a new take of a potato soup. We don't know yet. What do you think? Sounds like it.
I like it. I like potatoes also for the mystic rectangles, because they're kind of like a building block. And so it's like we're building the soup, and it's a nice counter to all that garlic and spice we have so far.
It binds and blends, doesn't it? Yes. Well, here we are, and we have Amanda Pierce you can connect with, and John. I do videos. I'm going to do something with, and this is usually at the half hour. We're a little late here. And always bringing attention. That was with Astrology Star Sisters with Liz Machette. But also we have Talk Cosmos has some wonderful podcasts, YouTubes about this year coming up. There was a focus with archetypal symbols, and one with vibrational astrology, and another with Astro Jam. And next week is going to be about the nodes. So do look at, and thank you for subscribing. Here we have the full moon. We won't spend a lot of time on the Sabians. We'll just keep moving because we have probably 15 minutes. It is 24 degrees Cancer Sabian symbol. It's a man, it's one woman and two men castaways on a small island of the South Seas. So it's complex, it's potential, but it's all harmonic, and it's trying to integrate. And
I have keywords: Reliance, United We Stand, Coalition. Here we are on this island. We better work together so we can make this work. What a metaphor for what's happening now with the skies.
Particularly with Moon and Mars together. Oh my goodness. We'll talk about that in a second. And out of bounds. Amanda, should I go on?
Yeah, I just like what John's just said. I think that's a fantastic entry into this full moon.
Yes, working together. So it illuminates, it culminates. It is the seed that has blossomed. It's in the full light. And if you see something you don't like, it's time to release it. And that is going to be 23 degrees, 59 minutes in Cancer on the 13th of January. So it's a full moon in its own sign of Cancer. It's quite intuitive. And in the East Coast, it's going to be in the evening at 10 o'clock, 26 minutes and 38 seconds, if we want to be exact. Let's look at the action. There is immediately, Mars is still opposing. We'll hear the Sun and Pluto and the Moon.
Yeah, that Moon Mars conjunction in Cancer heightens emotional responses right now in this period. There might be some anger that comes forward, some frustration at not being able to move forward as we would like to with that retrograde energy. So
Not
uh,
knowing
it,
what one needs to express at that moment.
But a lot
You
of
know what I mean?
courage. Yes, I hope there's a lot of courage to cut away when you have
yeah,
the moon and Mars together and they're looking at maybe what has restricted or what they're breaking from or how they want to remake the mold and
and
transform.
and Sue, I really like what you said earlier about emotions being so important for how we create our reality. And with Cancer sometimes gets a bad rap about being super emotional, but it's just more tuned in. It just goes deeper into the emotions, and we all have those emotions. So this is a way for us to tap deeper into our own emotions and really feel them and see what's there. And in a full moon, there's a lot of illumination. So we may be seeing some of our emotional responses that we weren't super conscious of coming forward.
And they're out of bounds too. So the moon series no longer is. How I mean the grief. The story has ended in that regard. Although we're always nurturing ourselves, that's part of it. But as far as out of bound, where we're just working pure archetypally without any potential restrictions, because it means it's outside of the path of the sun.
I think of the out of bounds also being when you're on the roller coaster and you go over the big loop and you're like, oh my God, those planets are doing their big loop around and things are just a little bit too strong right now.
Feels like you're gonna
Right.
fly out of your seat.
Maybe. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I really like how you're both speaking of the contraction and expansion, because we have Jupiter there in thinking Mercury of Gemini at an action with both Venus and
Yeah.
Saturn that are trying to work together too to refigure the values and
So
the
people
part
wanting
of the
to
whole world.
expand within their relationships to bring some kind of change, and that can be uncomfortable. Venus and Jupiter square.
Yes.
So acceptance comes in and listening and all that.
Yeah,
So,
the Jupiter Saturn square is, or the Jupiter Saturn relationship, the cycle in general, and the square specifically now is there's this visioning for our future, and how do we put that into place in our reality? How do we create that structure, that container for it? And with Venus here, it's a nice addition to all that Pisces energy. And it just, to me, feels like Venus is kind of quietly working with Saturn here in the background. It's not going to be loud and over the top, but this is where in our quiet moments, we might kind of go to think, okay, how am I building what I want for the future?
And Venus is exalted in Pisces. She's loving the work, right?
the
Yeah.
great news here, that's behind perhaps still working as far as, but there's so much energy that's flowing and connecting. When we look at that angle or perspective of this full moon in emotional Cancer with the new nodes, we're entering now holistic thinking of how we are with the consciousness of Pisces is all the things that are beyond our control, the wild animals, the nature itself, and our unity with collectively, our unconscious unity. And we have, look at this as far as astrology goes, angel wings, which are when you have two point of thales, in other words, constructions. It's just, John, you can talk about that, wish fulfillment to bring up your idea. A grand trine.
I can talk about this. There was somebody made a list of one configuration for every sign of the zodiac, and the angel wings falls under Aquarius because it's really quirky and weird looking, but it also makes a pair of wings. And the emblem for Aquarius is often a guy pouring water out, or Ganymede, who's winged. So it's like an angel. So it's a very, very hopeful configuration, and planets working really well together to create a great future. It's futuristically oriented like Aquarius. So it's really quite lovely.
There will be immediate things happening, and going with the flow of those things we might quickly realize maybe it was unexpected, but really in our benefit, because Uranus has often said, oh, it's unexpected. Well, it's immediate. It's what's happening right now, and things happen. But it was an attitude that of rather than separation, of unity, we can see that wholeness. Because if we also look at what is always standing out here, it's that moon, that full moon connected with Mars. It's out of bounds. In fact, I believe they both are. That is not only the end of a kite, but an opposition. I mean, and the angel wings. It's enormous. It's really focusing, okay, we're doing new actions to go ahead with redescribing our roles, with the sun in Capricorn, as, to tie it all together, because Venus and Saturn are working together, that the sun is listening to.
If Juno up there in the upper right would move forward a few more degrees, which it will form a grand sextile. So 6 planets all 60 degrees apart from each other. So.
Oh, yes, we didn't mention that. Yes, it's opposite exactly to Uranus. So that's our new alliances.
Balancing act.
Oh. Okay, now we're adding some more broth. We decided some kind of broth, whether it's beef, turkey, chicken bones, or whether it's the basic onion, carrot, celery. But this is adding
more layers. Are we going to actually make this?
Well, it's going to be tasty, whoever does make it. So here we have finally, in the last few minutes of our talk today, the third quarter, which is a crisis of action, of consciousness. So generally it's a house rising party in a small village, getting everybody's help. So it's a community.
Yep.
It's cooperation. Anything else you want to add, or shall we just
sharing the burden, interdependence?
Goody.
Building it together.
So here we have lots of action. We have remembering that the nodes are now in the new 18 months of wholeness and healing. Virgo wants to get rid of the details, that what matters to help us or strengthen them. Mars is still out of bounds until next month. It's the only one.
If you look at the lines, the aspect lines, they look like 2 roads coming together at a minor street corner or something. These big boulevards coming together.
Yeah. So our ideas.
That means.
Well, maybe. Well, you look at we're expanding and contracting. That's Jupiter and Saturn. We have thinking our actions, and actions that are just like not thinking too much. Maybe like Mars, just act and then figure it out. Even though it is retrograde and in Cancer, it's emotional. Going to have to listen to these emotions, and it's
these roads have come together. Right?
Yep, I think so. And it's deep. The moon is in Scorpio. It wants to understand psychologically how to see it. And it's a cult too. It could be very mystical. It's Scorpio is not all money. Other people's, it is our resources, how we exchange, but it's so much. It's really our connection with the magic.
A need to keep the internal fire burning, moon with Vesta. So really being true to yourself, perhaps.
And at third quarter, last quarter moon, it's about that integration piece. And we have the sun conjunct Pluto, moon square Pluto. There's a lot to really integrate that we've learned from this month about our empowerment.
Yes. Oh, I like this. Well, we have quite a soup. We added coconut milk for those angel wings. So if you try it, good luck. And
let us know how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the whole broth, chili, ghost pepper, ginger, and garlic. There goes Mars. Potatoes.
Maybe go easy on the peppers. They are really
Yeah.
I
Very
don't
easy.
know. It's going to be intense, but you have celery and broth and coconut milk, and so it's lots of fun. Thank you, everybody, for downloading, subscribing, and liking. And this is Kaleidoscope Visions. It's really been a great pleasure to open up the new year. Spicy, alive, and focused. So thank you, Amanda and John, and
Thank
everybody listening.
Thank you. Happy New Year, all.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.